Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassar here in Geneva with a new tradition. Actually, not even a new tradition.
It's
just
not.
a tradition.
It's old at this time.
Yes, but Joe Kirk again, Grand
Good to see
Seiko
you.
booth. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
So once again, let's start to go through watches for this year, 2025. Big updates. We've already discussed UFA in another video, but we can talk about that a little bit more. But there's more Grand Seiko to talk about.
Of course, yeah.
So one other place I want to look at, we see some follow-ups to the Tentagraph. So it was a couple years ago, we saw the Tentagraph be unveiled. Mechanical, high-beat chronograph for Grand Seiko. Now we're seeing some updates with some designs, case concepts, dial configurations. Tell us what's new.
So much. No, actually, I think you're going to notice it's a very lean selection of variety this year.
Yes.
And it's great to see Grand Seiko evolving this way because we've really streamlined and we're kind of focusing and narrowing in on the collection and making it more comprehensive. So Tentagraph, as you know, was introduced 2 years ago, and we haven't done anything since. It's one model, and it felt like it was never coming with a second. Well, good news. And better news, we have a Panda now. Mm-hmm. So this is what I've been waiting for, actually. And to create a Panda dial in Grand Seiko was never really possible. To do like a printing or painting for the subdials wouldn't meet our standard. But the unique thing about our Tentagraph is that we have a dual dial construction, which we don't typically do. All of our other chronographs that we've done in the past, the spring drives, have all been one-piece dial. So we never had the ability to do a qualitative Panda type watch. So once again, inspired by McWhorter and what we call a snow blue color. It's more silver, I'd say, than anything.
More silver. I actually didn't even catch the blue too much. I can see it
Yeah, it's a very subtle tint. It gives it that cold feeling for sure, but definitely more on the silver side. And then we have the black subdials with the black chapter ring and, of course, the black zirconium ceramic bezel. So all the specifications are still the same as the original Tentagraph, which was in that more midnight blue, but now with the updated dial. And one thing I love about this more silver color is that you can see the McWhorter texture very clearly. So it's a very fine, almost fibrous texture, and when you look at it under a microscope, it almost looks like a hair or something repetitive over, And now, we have this great addition to the lineup. It may even succeed the original blue one as a bestseller, but
I personally like this more.
I do too.
Like this more.
Yeah.
But this is a really sharp-looking piece. 9S C5 on the backside. So this is the second movement or second watch to utilize this movement, correct?
In a sense, yes. Yes, this is the second watch that will utilize caliber 9S C5. Now, just to kind of refresh your memory as well, I'm sure you remember well, but based on 9S A5.
Correct.
But it's not simply 9S A5 with a module on top. Everyone kind of hears that it's modular, but the main plate cannot be the same construction, so that has to be totally reworked. Then on top of that, the modular design is more to improve the serviceability. So that's the reason why we opted to do modular instead of integrated, because it would have been too difficult to service. You would have had to send it to Japan every time, and we want to make it easier for the customer at the end of the day. But the biggest benefit of this, in a chronograph, when you start the stopwatch, the power is drawn away from the balance wheel, so the accuracy starts to fumble, let's say. In this, we managed to make a modular chronograph that, compared to an integrated, is even more energy efficient and allows for more power to still reach the balance wheel. So when you start the stopwatch, whether you're running it or not, it's keeping nearly the same level of accuracy. And of course, we test it to meet that standard with this new Grand Seiko standard for this particular caliber.
So you're not seeing that loss of amplitude. Power reserve,
Correct.
Also very impressive for a chronograph. So.
Yeah, 72 hours, and that's the longest at 36,000 for a chronograph on the market today. So.
Speaking of Tentagraph, now this is a bit of a different play on the Tentagraph. This might be the most aggressive case I've ever seen. And it looks, in terms of finishing, the facets, the surfaces. Tell us more about this. It looks like a Tokyo Lion case construction.
Tokyo Lion, it needs to be bold, it needs to be aggressive, and that's really the aim here, and I think that this is a very powerful watch, right? And it really is dynamic. The angles are everything. And one of my favorite aspects of this watch's design is the bezel. So the Tokyo Lion design and our spring drive movements has the sapphire bezel, which is very nice, and it has the luminous numerals underneath, but this, from a shape and faceting and Zaratsu polishing aspect, is far more complex. And that's what I really appreciate about this new iteration of Tokyo Lion. So the Tokyo Lion Tentagraph is, from our Shizuku watch studio. So a little different from our Shinshu studio, and always there's these differences. So they've redesigned the bezel, they've redesigned the pushers, which I absolutely love the design of these pushers. They're incredibly comfortable and...
Those interior facets too, like that rib type of effect down the
and
line.
Beautifully polished as well. So obviously you can't Zaratsu into those little grooves, but diamond cut to make this beautiful finish. And, it's something...
so when you say unique. Diamond cut, is that similar to how you're finishing your indices?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, nail on the head and the dial. That's the other thing I love about this is, it's not the lion's mane as we use on the other models, but a new take on the lion's mane that is more emulating the mane as it blows in the wind. So basically, different directions for each line in this more kind of symmetrical pattern. Kind of symmetrical.
And then the bowl of the kind of this bowl subdials that you're seeing here. I love the 3-dimension that you have on that.
So that's one of the other interesting things about this design is we have the base, the main dial is what we call lion gold in color, and then we have these 3 subdials. One matches, so that way it's known to be a part of the timekeeping mechanism.
So your
and the other 2 in black are in chronograph for the chronograph with the orange hand matching the central seconds.
Okay.
But those are individual pieces. So instead of the dual dial structure that we have on the Evolution 9 Tentagraph, this will fall in our sports collection and have 3 individual subdials, which are diamond cuts. And it creates a bit of a technical problem for us because the clearance required on the height of Tentagraph is so small. So this makes it even more challenging. And if you notice, the hands go almost all the way to the edge of the bowl, the concave subdial. And that in itself is a technical challenge because of the clearance required. So a lot of micron level details that you would never think about just looking at the watch, but it's really, really impressive how we've done it. And to me, the case is the most precious aspect of this watch. So we're utilizing brilliant hard titanium, so the same material we're using on Kodo, right? You can look at it on Kodo next to platinum and it looks almost the same. Most people can't tell the difference at all. On top of that, it's twice the hardness of stainless steel. So it's very difficult to work with, actually. High-intensity titanium is difficult to work with, more so
You wouldn't guess it by looking at this case, though.
But, yes, and so brilliant hard titanium to be Zaratsu polished, and because of all the facets on this case, this is probably the most intersecting planes and bevels that you'll find on one of Grand Seiko's cases today. And this is literally a nightmare for our Zaratsu polishers. I always love to tell the story. One of our designers who's retired now would love to test the Zaratsu polishers. So he'd take a new design and he'd take it to the polishers. And if they said, I can't do this, it's impossible, he's like, congratulations, you have a new task. Make it possible. And so that tradition still lives on today. Clearly with this watch.
And then a couple other details I noticed. On the back of the strap, you have a little hint at the lion, and then curvature of the back case I'm also noticing. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was just feeling the back of the crystal. I'm like, wait, that's curved.
Yes. Everything curved, very short lug-to-lug length. We want to make it as wearable as possible. It's a little bit smaller in dimension than the Tentagraph, but almost the same at 43. The other aspect is the strap, as you notice the lion's pad print on there. But at the same time, this is also a new rubber material, which is also very highly faceted, just like the case. But the rubber is over twice the tensile strength of the traditional silicone that we might have used on, it was more of an add-on for a dive watch in a limited edition or something along those lines.
And this is limited?
This will not be limited,
this
actually.
Is standard production?
Continuous production, and, it's going to be limited in capacity, but not limited edition. So there will not be many of these around the world, especially in the first year of introduction. But I think that in the reality, this is a very new look for Grand Seiko, and maybe will be a very new customer. But me, as a big Grand Seiko fan, as you know, I love this design, and I really want one. I'm sure I won't be able to get one this year. I haven't even been able to buy a Tentagraph yet for the original one.
Oh, wow.
So I'm trying, trust me. But maybe now I'll wait for the new one. But I've got to, see how much patience I have.
And then shifting over to our right, we have something more elegant, looking at more of this lavender. What are you calling this dial color?
So this is, lavender has been a common choice of word, but in Japan, and actually Iwate Prefecture, the prefectural flower of Iwate is known as kiri, Paulina. So you may be familiar actually, like the high-end packaging in Japan, very plain-looking wood, sometimes has calligraphy on it. That's kiri wood. And they use it for all sorts of high-end items, but of course in the spring you have this flower that blooms, and this is the light purple flower that you would see. So we use the Mount Iwate texture once again, 36.5 millimeter, 9S64 manual wind with 3-day power reserve, and our 44 GS design series. So this is a signature of Grand Seiko that we established in 1967 and still influences every design for Grand Seiko today. So it's a very important part of our collection.
And in terms of pricing, this is going to be more one of the entry points for your mechanical watchmaking. This is probably right over $5,000, I would assume.
$5,600.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
So for someone that's just trying to get into the brand, thin case profile, very wearable, 36 millimeter form factor, could work on a variety of wrists, or those that want that more heritage DNA.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So before we end with UFA, a couple pieces that were, and we've already done a whole video about UFA, so if you want more, but we'll give another.
I mean, I could talk about it for much longer than the first video.
Yeah, we can keep going. We could do another series on it. I wanted to talk about a few pieces that may have gotten lost in the mix leading up to Watches and Wonders, because these are watches that I'm a huge fan of. Yeah. One is a new dial pattern, this Mount Iwate dial pattern, which, hey, look at that.
Right behind us.
Coordinating with the backgrounds. This is limited piece, but new dial pattern and very striking in person. So tell us a little bit more, please.
So we call this one Mountainscape in terms of the dial pattern, and is a new take on Mount Iwate from the aerial view, which we utilize from the original Mount Iwate pattern, but a bit more coarse, a bit more actually like the white birch. So I understand why you like it so much, and I feel like that's the same reason I do. But again, in the light blue, and we'll now utilize, for this one at least, the Ever Brilliant stainless steel. So Ever Brilliant stainless steel is the most corrosion-resistant stainless steel used in watchmaking today. And it's a very important aspect of Grand Seiko's DNA to have the longest-lasting watch possible. And corrosion is a common occurrence, especially in vintage Grand Seiko. But across the watch industry, corrosion is always a problem. And many companies have utilized 904L. Which is a great material as well, but we cannot utilize that material because it's not polishable with Zerat's polishing technique. And also, the interpretation of Grand Seiko's case design requires very strict tolerances. So we looked to what they call super steel. So Ever Brilliant steel is a super steel, and basically, super steel is used in like offshore facilities and in the food industry to hold like highly corrosive liquids. You can't mill it down to micron level tolerances, and you certainly cannot Zeratsu polish it. But we changed the formula of a super steel in order to achieve watchmaking precision and Grand Seiko polishability. So that's the distinct difference of Ever Brilliant steel compared to any other steel on the market today. Higher corrosion resistance, even the 904L. And this beautiful, brilliant color.
This one is limited to 1,200 pieces, if I'm not mistaken, and 40 millimeter case, 9S-A5 on the inside, so familiar traits there, but...
And a little rose gold on the Grand Seiko on the clasp there.
And is there any indication or the reason for that when you see that indicator on a clasp for a Grand Seiko?
Typically just for a limited edition.
Okay, so you'll see that. So that's something that people can recognize and realize very quickly. One other piece, looking at this 38 millimeter case, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And gold as well.
Yes. So this is based on the same model that we introduced in titanium with Sakura Kakushi. So once again, cherry blossoms inspired. We don't make many gold pieces, and I love gold. As you can tell, I've been wearing this watch every time I've seen you. I think for a little over a year now. But gold for us is very difficult because our cases are very flat, multi-surfaced. Many planes intersecting, and all have very sharp edges. But gold is very soft. It's not easy to do this. So we need to cold forge all of our cases multiple times and anneal them with heat in between. And it's you're talking over and over and over again to reach a higher hardness level so that we can adapt it to Zeratsu polishing. Now, over the years, we've advanced Zeratsu polishing because it's, we've talked about before, it's not the same. It's not all the same. So for gold and platinum in particular, it becomes extremely challenging to retain the quality of a Grand Seiko case shape, but this is one of the reasons why we do so few pieces. So in the end, it does create something distinct and unique to Grand Seiko, which I love though. So we have the rose gold, 18 karat rose gold case with the new copper pink dial we call, and utilizing our 9S85 caliber as you would find in the titanium models, but on a strap with a pin buckle, which you don't see too often in Grand Seiko.
And then I would imagine when you're looking at precious metals in like something like this 62 type of GS case, it's very difficult to finish because we were learning at the manufacturer that some of these lines have to be hand finished as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So outside of just the traditional Zaratsu polishing technique, there's another step that's
yes,
required.
Exactly. You got to Zaratsu everything first, and then you can come in and add the brushed finishing or the hairline finishing.
In gold, the consequences are high because if you lose too much material, there's really no going back.
No, it's impossible.
And it's very and
you can't go backwards.
And it's costly at that. So starting over has more consequences as well. Now we've already spoken about the UFA, but this is such a monumental piece for Grand Seiko on a variety of fronts. It answers questions that many people had. One was the
biggest one. Yeah, the biggest one. Let's not kid ourselves.
And then in addition to that, you have a new frontier for you all, which I can imagine in the future will come with a caliber that's going to have a form factor that's going to allow you to do more things. Now you see it in a 37 millimeter case. And if you could sum it up, this is for accuracy standpoint, the most accurate watch that is powered by a mainspring through automatic winding.
Exactly. Automatic winding, manual winding, anything that is powered by a spring, this is the most accurate. By a long shot.
Yes.
Yes, to this point.
Yes, to this point. We'll see what you do next. But we have two different dial options and case materials.
Correct.
So
Platinum 950 on the strap.
And then you're holding the titanium. And for this dial, just to make it clear to people that are looking at it, it actually does have a slight blue.
Yes, it's a more silver. Mm-hmm. There's a light blue for the platinum model on a strap.
This is more vibrant of a blue, I would say.
Definitely. It's still light blue, but then for the continuous production model, we wanted to do more leaning towards silver with the subtle blue hints, again, giving it that very cold feeling. It's inspired by, frosted trees, so I think that makes sense. And then it has the tempered blue second hand as well. Then, the big topic, I think you'll agree, it may be talked about even more than the accuracy.
They're both important, but yes,
of course,
this was probably more asked for. You don't need any requests for accuracy when you talk about Grand Seiko, but micro adjustment was something people definitely wanted to see.
Yeah, so the micro adjust clasp I think is big news for us, and we're very glad to finally be able to introduce something that meets all the standards of Grand Seiko, right? Longevity, durability. Just think about that. If you're using a micro adjust clasp every day, think about all the wear that could occur here. Mm-hmm. So our goal is to make this as long lasting as possible and that it doesn't break. It's serviceable, or it's bulletproof basically. And so we came up with this new patented design, and you can very simply just kind of push down on it and it will slide out if you want. Mm-hmm. But the way that it's designed, you'll actually take it in almost a T shape, push up and out. So it's very simple to use. So just a little bit of pressure, push up and over, and then it will click into place in 3 steps. So
you have 3 2-millimeter increments that you're able to adjust at, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm. So up and over, slide out, and then 1, 2, 3.
Amazing.
Easy to use, built like a tank.
And these will be available in June. They'll start to become available in June.
Yeah. It's both the movement and the clasp itself actually have limited capacity, so we'll make it continuous, right? So it's not limited edition, but it will be some time before we can roll it out in a larger scale, let's say.
Well, it's a phenomenal release. It's a huge moment for Grand Seiko, a moment for today, a moment for the future. But Joe, thank you so much, as always, for walking us through it.
Totally my pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Of course.
All right, Teddy.